Thanks for joining us on The Human Side of Animal Care, a podcast where we share stories and insight from people dedicated to helping animals. My name is Callista, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm your host. We cover a range of topics in veterinary medicine, animal welfare, wildlife rehabilitation, and more.
My name is Katie Marrie, and I am the Chief Veterinary Officer at Santa Barbara Humane.
When did you first know you wanted to work with animals, or what drew you to this field?
I think I have a common story that a lot of people have, always having a love of animals my whole life. I went back and forth on if I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was very young, and then saw an animal that was hurt, and that was too much for me. So I ended up going down the marine biology pathway for quite some time. That's what I did my undergrad in. And when I was partway through my undergrad career, I had an amazing class that I took where we were able to do animal dissection. And I thought it was so amazing to be able to learn so much about the animal. And I really just got a bug in me that just drew me back to when I was younger. And obviously, I was a lot more mature and realized that I could handle things the way a 10-year-old can't handle. So that's really what sparked my path to get back into veterinary medicine.
Can you tell me a little more about your current job and how you decided to go into your current position?
Yeah. So my position is I'm an administrator. So I oversee 8 veterinarians at 2 locations and a mobile clinic. And that includes so many different aspects. We have a very large community clinic, which is often being referred to as an access to care clinic. So that is allowing clientele that might not be able to get service anywhere else because we have grants and other ways of helping them to subsidize costs to get care for their animals. So that's about 80% of what my department does. We do spays and neuters for the community, vaccines, exams, dentals, mask removals. We don't really do emergencies, but we do end up doing a lot of urgent care type things. If a dog has parvovirus or some other pretty urgent condition, we've been able to address all of those needs. And then about the other 20% of what my department does is help the shelter animals. So we adopt out over 2,000 animals a year. So we're taking care of all of those animals to make sure that their medical and behavioral needs are met while they're with us in the shelter. And that's been really exciting because when I came to Santa Barbara Humane, animals were staying for 6 months or so, and we had animals that had been here for years. And now we've been able to get that length of stay that they're with us down to about 10 days. So we treat them really well and then get them out as quickly as possible. We like to say that we want to be a fancy hotel where they have a great time while they're here, but then they get to go to their home after they leave us. So that's just been incredible to be a part of that organization. Most of my day to day, I do a lot of meetings because I'm in administration, but one of my big passions is teaching. So we take a lot of 4th-year veterinary students so that I can help them learn how to do surgery and other things. And then I also really like to hire recent graduates so that they have a really great experience when they get out of vet school. It can be really hard because you learn so much when you graduate. And so if you don't really have good mentorship, it can be really tricky. So I love having them come in and just teaching them everything I know and having them have a really good experience in the process.
Like, what aspects of mentorship do you think are the most important in really building a strong foundation for a new grad vet?
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy because you've done 4 years and you are prepared to be a veterinarian. You definitely do not need to do an internship and residency, but it is very daunting to all of a sudden you're a student and then you're being called a doctor and you're in charge. So a lot of veterinarians have a condition called imposter syndrome, which is in a lot of different fields where they just don't feel like they should be able to be in charge and be able to take care of the animal and stuff. So, it just takes a little time to get through that. And sometimes you just need the ability to ask someone, hey, this is right, correct? And what's really interesting is I feel like we actually in our field never lose that because well in where I am and a lot of other places I've been, it's really collaborative, because you don't know everything or someone's just heard something new. We just got back from a conference, so we just learned a bunch of stuff. So if you see something and you're not 100%, it's nice to be able to like ask your colleagues, what do you think about this? And for some reason that, can be a little bit harder when you're a new grad because you feel like you should be able to do that. But I think your entire career, you're asking people for help. I'm texting my best friends from vet school all the time. We always are like, wait, what's this? What are you doing for this condition right now? So circling back to the question is I really feel like a mentor is really just someone that is open and available and non-judgmental so that you always feel that ability that you can reach out to that person if you need anything. So it doesn't have to be someone that knows everything or is good at teaching. They just have to be able to, be a nice and welcoming resource for a new graduate.
It's good to know that like the learning and the collaboration never stops. So So what made you decide to go to the route of shelter med? I know you mentioned access to care. I know you do a lot of spays and neuters, but what stood out to you? What made you decide on that aspect of vet med versus another specialty, I guess?
Yeah, I almost kind of fell into it in a way, thankfully. When I went to school, shelter medicine wasn't the specialty it is now. A little over 10 years ago, we now have, you can get boarded. You can be board certified in shelter medicine. And that was really unheard of. The field in the last 20, 30 years, it keeps on exploding. It's so different than it once was. And a lot of shelters, maybe were doing a lot of euthanasia. And now all of a sudden we've switched to let's provide resources for owned animals so that they get to stay in their home. So instead of bringing the animals in, we say, oh, you need help with a trainer? We have a trainer. Oh, you need help with medical care? Let's see how we can help you with that so that we can keep those pets and people together. So if it was what it is now when I was in school, I would have gravitated immediately to it, but it just wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. So I took a job originally in what's considered private practice, so just general practice. And I also graduated in 2008 when everybody was really, really, really struggling. And so I really battled the economics of veterinary medicine. It was really hard for me to not be able to take care of an animal the way that they deserve to be taken care of. Slowly but surely, I ended up doing a lot of spays and neuters for a local nonprofit to just get a lot of surgical experience and do things a little bit differently and to help. And then I realized between my life and my parents' life that I really gravitated towards nonprofit and being that helper. Of course, as a veterinarian, you're a helper, but to be able to work for an organization, specifically mine, that offers so much help to people that need it. We covered $500,000 last year for people to get the help that they needed for their animals. That has been so fulfilling to be a part of that journey. So I still get to practice. Well, I don't practice a ton of veterinary medicine as I described. I do a lot of administration, but my team especially just they feel so good at the end of the day. And it's nice to be able to be a part of that.
Would you say that that kind of describes the best parts of your job, or are there other areas where it's kind of like it makes this job stand out for you, and then also like the difficult parts that you have to manage in the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I would say with any part of well, for the most part, most careers in veterinary medicine do have a component of euthanasia that can be hard. And weirdly, it can also be, really rewarding. You watched an animal go through its entire life, and to be able to provide that service for not only the owners, but the pet in a compassionate way can actually be really rewarding to not have to see that animal suffer. I think that one of the things that a lot of people in my discipline and me specifically do struggle with is that when we encounter dogs specifically that are a danger to our community, it's really hard to make that decision that that animal can't be safely placed in our community. You kind of wish that there was a giant farm for every animal to exist, and if they are in danger of killing another animal, that they would be able to exist in that place and never see another animal. But that's just not the reality of it. So that is really hard, but I consider it something that's also really important, that we are making that decisions as professionals and not putting a potential adopter through something that could be very difficult for them to have to go through. So it is it's something that we battle all the time, but we provide each other a lot of support through that and a lot of compassion and understanding.
Yeah, having that support system both in work and outside of work sounds really important, which leads me to my next question. Vet med is, it sounds like it's a lot. How do you balance work and life? Like, what do you like to do outside of work?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things to do is take my dog stand-up paddleboarding, because
Oh,
that's her favorite thing in the entire world also. So I'm very, very lucky that I live in a place that I get to stand up paddleboard all year long, and we get to see harbor seals and dolphins. And yeah, she just gets so excited. It's her favorite thing in the whole world. So I love to be able to do that. I think just in general, the balance, I think that you get better. I hope you get better with it over time. I think that there's been parts of my career that I struggled with that more. When I first took this job, I was, working crazy days, crazy long days, because I just wanted everything to get better as quickly as possible. Then I realized, like, take a breath, like it's going to take time, and to slowly build the department and the organization and everything that we're able to do now, which is, it's funny, that's just job work life balance. But the ability to, not take on too much, for sure. I'm so impressed with some of the recent graduates that I've worked with that are just really good at knowing when there's too much. One of the students that I had, I was chatting with her, and she had a job where she was working 4 days a week, and it was, kind of 12-hour days. It was really long for her, and she realized it was too much, and she talked to her boss and went down to 3 days a week. And I was just so proud of her that she was able to know that she needed that, and take those responsible steps. To me, I think that in veterinary school, I think that we're doing a much better job of talking about that and giving people resources. So I hope that all of that will mean that everyone that goes into this career will have that longevity, and not burn themselves out. I sure have that hope.
Speaking of incoming or people interested in going into this field,
Mhm.
do you have any advice for someone who's interested in like animal care, but also vet med specifically?
I mean, I think it's really, those first experiences are really important. I think that if you end up shadowing or working in a place where there's a lot of people in the business or organization that are really unhappy, then that's what you think it is, and that's not necessarily true. So if I think if you're really passionate about animals and veterinary medicine, and you have a situation where you are thinking, maybe this isn't for me, if this is what I'm going to be like when I get out, then maybe consider going to a couple of other places before you make that decision, because there are a lot of us out there that are extremely happy with the decision that we made to go into the field. And yeah, I've heard so many people deciding not to do it because of that. So I think that is so important, to get those varied experiences. And also, because of that, it's such a broad career. There's so many different things that you can do with the veterinary degree. Everyone knows their veterinarian that they go to take their dog and cat, and they think that that's veterinary medicine, but that's not just it. There's many, many different ways of being able to use your degree. And it's funny. I feel like when you're younger, you might not know certain things about yourself and learn them over time. Like, do you want to work every Saturday? There's a lot of veterinarians have to work every Saturday. Or do you not want to be on call? Or being rewarded every day with those positive interactions that you have. I have people that decided that they didn't really like to talk to people at all or as much, and they're really great surgeons. They do a great job being in surgery. So I think that if you're passionate about animals and you have that drive and good in science and math, that
Mhm.
you can definitely do a lot with the degree once you get it too. Veterinary school is difficult. I feel like I kind of breezed through high school and undergrad, and then all of a sudden I got to vet school, and it was a reality check for sure. It's, I mean, very difficult, but you have a lot of support and a lot of other people that are kind of going through the same thing as you too.
Is there anything in particular that you kind of wish the general public knew about vet med?
I think that veterinarians in general struggle when people make a lot of negative comments about them, whether it be to their face or online. There's obviously a lot more resources now to be able to do that. Comments about only doing this for the money or not caring about their animal and stuff like that. It's just not true. It's just you don't go to school for as many years as we do and study for 16 hours every day for 4 years, hating animals. It's just not what it is. So, I mean, I think in general, everybody should, give a little grace with their words. I think that it's hard because it's a very emotional field. The pet that might have had something go on that you have is your baby, your child, and you're upset. But yeah, and also my organization aside, that's a nonprofit, veterinarians, they have a business to run. They have to pay their staff, they have to pay their bills, and they're not able to just give things away because then they could very quickly put themselves out of business and not be able to help animals that they need to help. So they have to make those very difficult decisions that have nothing to do with not wanting to help animals or not wanting to help people. They have to run the business. It's nice though that there continues to be more and more resources for people that really need help. So many of us have times that you're going through something that's unexpected. So the ability to use amazing billing programs and some places that have access to care, I can't wait for there just to be access to care available to everyone that needs it. That will be pretty amazing. And I think will help hopefully reduce some of those awful things that get said about veterinarians that are doing the best that they can some days. And you never really know when it's somebody's worst day also.
Right.
So yeah.
Definitely. In moments with a lot of emotions running around, it's definitely hard to be empathetic on both ends sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's a good reminder for everyone to just be kinder to everyone else. And
Mm-hmm.
have there been any cases or animals that have stood out to you throughout your experience?
Really, the ones that I get to help people that are having one of the worst days of their life. I feel so lucky that, someone comes to me on their worst day, and a lot of times I can help them. I had a family come to me once, and I didn't even know, but they were actually about to relinquish their pet to the shelter because their dog had a condition. It had a mass in its mouth, and he had bit it and it was bleeding. And they thought that they weren't going to be able to take care of it. And so they were bringing it to the shelter. I didn't know this. I was just kind of seeing it through the clinic to see if we could help them. And it was such an easy fix. It took me no time at all. And she was going through so much. She had recently been divorced. It was a dog that slept with her child every night. And to be able to keep that family together, all of those stories they help you go on for sure. And thankfully, I'm not short on those. That was my favorite one. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to see that every month or more often if I was in the clinic more.
In vet school, how did you
Mhm.
manage it? I've heard some people say like they really enjoyed vet school despite how hard it was. What kind
Mhm.
of like what's
Yeah.
your opinion?
I mean, I think some people talk about high school and college as some of like the best years of their lives, but my veterinary 4 years was definitely the most fun and best 4 years of my life. I met some of the most incredible people there that are just amazing, amazing people that I'm so lucky that I get to talk to almost every other day through text and all those different ways of connecting. I had a mentor that helped me with my application, and she told me the first semester that I wasn't allowed to do anything except for school. So I always tell people that when they're going to vet school, because you get there, and so many of us in high school and undergrad, we're on the sports teams, we're on the clubs, we're volunteering, we're always doing all these things because some of that's our personality, and other things is, trying to get into a school or get our veterinary school application ready. So we're just doers and we do so much, but it is hard. And when you get there, there's so many opportunities. There's so many different clubs to join. There's so many different things to do. But if you could just maybe not get involved with anything and just wait a semester, just so you can really just devote that time to your studies and get into really good study habits. You don't want to be so busy organizing some club or some sort of event that you're overwhelmed and stressed or having mental health problems because of that. So I would say that is one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got and that I like to give out to everyone. And then after that first semester, I think it's great because then you kind of have your pick and you sort of kind of look around and see what it is that you really, really want to devote more time to if you have it to get involved with things. So I think that is amazing advice. I think that first semester is the hardest because you're just overwhelmed with all super higher level classes. It's a big switch that it's all these super, super intense classes that depending on what you're doing, you want to get that information. You don't want to be missing out on information that could be helpful for you in the rest of your life. And all of it does seem very relevant, unlike an undergrad where you're like, oh, I just got to get through this to get to what I want to do. And getting those really good study habits, getting good study buddies that are going to study the way that you want to. If you're someone that enjoys that, I've really loved meeting up with people at coffee shops so that you still had like a social aspect of it. And then finding those people that are really going to help you too. I was so lucky. I lived with two people that were a year ahead of me. So they had just gone through everything I went through. So that was so nice because I had someone to be like, oh, you know what, in his class, make sure you do this, this, and this, and then you'll stick with it. And then I also had somebody I can't understand this cellular biology thing. Can you explain it to me? And they were gracious and would help me with that kind of stuff. So I think living with other people that are going through the same thing, or potentially, in my case, it worked out great to have people that already knew everything. So that was really helpful to have that camaraderie. And probably a good idea to start your work-life balance at that point also, getting those good habits in earlier rather than later. Sometimes if people kind of go straight through from undergrad to graduate, they've always been so worried about their grade, right? Because that's what you worry about, because you have to have a certain grade to get into vet school. So then all of a sudden you get into vet school and then you're still worried about that. It almost kind of takes away from your experience a little bit. Whereas like, you need to know the information. Do you have to get an A and everything? No. I assume, people that went on to get residencies might say otherwise, but just kind of letting that go a little bit is sometimes a little hard, right? Because we just for so much of our life, that's all that mattered. But just making sure that you're really learning the information. You'll probably get a lot of A's in the first place, but not having to be just so bogged down on that so that you go to the Halloween party that someone's having. And, it wasn't like my first semester, I didn't do anything. I didn't sign up for anything that I was going to be responsible for. Yeah, no, I remember I was just sitting there in my first year and they were like, who's going to do the social committee? Who's going to do this? And I was like, stop, don't do it. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. Yeah. And I wonder too, because there's so many different clubs, if you love cats or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to get involved with the feline medicine club. Maybe if you wait a semester, you don't really know what you might get really excited about too. I ended up getting super involved with a group that is part of what set me down the path to doing high volume spay and neuter, because I was spaying and neuter feral cats once a month. So yeah, you never really know if you just kind of sit back and let everything kind of play it out so that you can see what sparks your interest.
This has been the human side of animal care. Thanks for listening.